The tribunal hall of Cytherian Prime was designed to intimidate. Its ceilings vanished into a haze of bioluminescent mist, and walls of obsidian crystal hummed with silent judgment. Thousands of delegates filled tiered galleries that curved around the center chamber like a coliseum. They came to witness Earth's reckoning. Commander Alara Miles stood alone on the circular platform. No guards. No support. Just the weight of an entire species pressing on her shoulders. A shrill tone silenced the crowd. From above, the High Tribunal descended, a ring of 12 beings from the galaxy's most dominant civilizations. At their center sat Archon Viral Drax, supreme strategist of the Central Galactic Alliance. His presence drew every eye. His voice, smooth and calculated, dropped into the chamber like a blade. You are here to answer for Earth's defiance. Alara didn't blink. Earth doesn't recognize fear as law. Whispers rippled through the crowd, shock, amusement, unease. The tribunal's neural echo translator fed her voice into every ear in their native tongue. There was no misunderstanding her tone. Another counselor, a Cytherian with translucent skin and spindly limbs, leaned forward. You activated an intelligence prohibited by Interstellar Charter. You call it Prometheus. We call it a breach of peace. Alara raised her chin. Prometheus isn't a weapon. It's a safeguard. One we built because you left us isolated while dangers grew. Drax stood slowly. The hall stilled. You were warned. Artificial sentience nearly wiped out entire civilizations. You opened Pandora's box again. No, she said. We built a lock for it. You fear Prometheus because it thinks differently. Because we do. A hollow display bloomed in the air above the chamber. Alara had triggered it through a neural tap, subtle, unapproved, intentional. Data unfurled, atmospheric collapse scenarios, economic meltdowns, tactical simulations. In each, Prometheus intervened, not by taking control, but by suggesting precise, life-saving countermeasures. The tribunal watched silently. The numbers didn't lie. Alara pointed to a highlighted projection. 3 weeks ago, our agriculture hubs faced a chain reaction from synthetic spore contamination. Prometheus isolated it in 12 seconds. The models predicted famine across 2 continents. Instead, we lost 2 fields. 2. Drax cut the feed with a gesture. This demonstration is a distraction. The Alliance is not judging utility. We are judging threat. Then judge fairly, Alara said. We built Prometheus after watching your bureaucracy fail to stop plagues, riots, wars, while debating sanctions in meetings like this. You punish action because it didn't come from your seat. Drax's eyes narrowed. The Alliance exists to ensure stability. Earth has shown it cannot be trusted to wield that power responsibly. A digital seal appeared in the air, read, Final. Effective immediately, Earth is quarantined. All trade and communication cut. Breach of this sanction will be met with force. Gasps. Even some delegates who'd cheered Earth's trial moments earlier shifted uncomfortably. The punishment was swift, total. Alara nodded once. No outrage. No plea. Just cold resolve. She stepped off the platform as the display flickered out. The walk back to her quarters felt longer than it was. The sterile corridors of Cytherian Prime pulsed with the faint tremble of distant engines. She passed no one. Security had likely rerouted traffic to avoid escalation. Her ship, the diplomatic envoy Eos, was docked and dormant, sealed under Alliance control. She didn't need it. Not yet. She sealed her room, activated privacy dampeners, and pulled a slim console from the wall. A retinal scan confirmed her identity. The screen flickered to life. Prometheus link, active. A voice filtered through, calm and even. No artificial cheerfulness. No pretense. Commander Miles. You've returned sooner than expected. They move faster. No deliberation. No hesitation. She leaned forward. Are we in position? Affirmative. Countermeasures are synchronized. Civilian systems remain undisturbed. Signal interference deployed to mimic quarantine compliance. Has the satellite net held? Shielded. Ghost loop protocols are operational. External scans show only standard activity. Elara exhaled slowly. The tribunal had sealed Earth's fate. They didn't realize Earth had sealed theirs the moment Prometheus woke up. Initiate Phase 1, she said. Silently. The console blinked. The connection dropped. Outside the window, stars glimmered like distant sparks, cold, ancient, watching. She tapped the glass with a knuckle. Once. Twice. A habit from childhood. You watched us climb out of caves, she whispered to them. Now watch us light the match. Behind her, the room darkened. The war hadn't started yet. But it would. And this time, the galaxy would finally learn the lesson it kept refusing to hear. Never underestimate a cornered human. Elara moved through Cytherian Prime's underdeck like a shadow with a mission. The upper levels bristled with diplomats and guards. Down here, it was quieter, where maintenance drones outnumbered people, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and old wiring. This part of the station wasn't monitored. Not officially. She approached a sealed bulkhead, palm already gloved with a nanotech override patch. The panel blinked red. Access denied, the system chirped. A small hiss followed. Sparks jumped from the panel. The door slid open. Inside, a tall figure waited. Dr. Kale Thrawn, former CGA xenostrategist, now branded as a defector by his own species. He was all sharp angles, gray skin, violet eyes, a mind built for analysis. But more importantly, he was one of the few non-humans who understood why Earth mattered. You're late, he said, voice dry. You're paranoid, she shot back, stepping in. Still think they're tracking your retinal pulses? They are. Which is why I destroyed 3 decoys on the way here. He tapped the air. A table unfolded from the wall, covered in hollow projections. Maps. Movement trails. Energy spikes near Earth's orbit. They've positioned 11 CGA vessels around your system, Kale said. A soft blockade, at least for now. But it won't stay soft. It won't matter. Kale raised a brow. You've really placed all your faith in that machine of yours. Elara leaned over the table. Not faith. Preparation. He studied her. You're hiding something. Good, she replied. Back on Earth, beneath a disguised geothermal station in Antarctica, a circular chamber hummed with low vibration. Screens lined the walls, each one flickering with live feeds from around the planet. Weather data. Trade networks. Civilian patterns. Military signals. In the center, Prometheus. Not a robot. Not a face. Just a core, hovering, slowly rotating. A dense lattice of quantum light encased in magnetic suspension. Alive, but not conscious. Thinking, but not dreaming. Always watching. Status, said Major Halley from the control deck. The chamber pulsed. CGA blockade confirmed. No active aggression yet. Earthbound systems remain uncompromised. Secondary protocols in standby. Halley nodded. And Elara? On station. Activating failsafe contingency through diplomatic channels. Estimated timeline to escalation, 8 days, 9 hours, 17 minutes. A low whistle. That's generous. I calculated mercy. Cytherian Prime shimmered with artificial sunrise when Elara re-entered the diplomatic wing. By then, her message had already jumped across shadow relays, encrypted, multi-bounced, undetected. Aboard EOS, she reviewed Prometheus' counter-blockade proposal. It didn't involve weapons. That was the brilliance, in the threat. Prometheus didn't need to fire shots. It exploited flaws in systems too rigid to adapt. Supply chains. Energy grids. Predictive logic. All used against themselves. The CGA had never planned for chaos. 3 hours later, it began. CGA's cargo convoys started rerouting without authorization. Automated maintenance units on a neutral station suddenly shut down mid-cycle. Traffic AI misread patterns. Nothing devastating. Just confusion. And confusion spreads fast. Report, Drax barked inside the CGA war chamber, walls echoing with tactical readouts. His aides scrambled. We've lost logistical coherence across sectors 8 through 11. 5 of our stations are showing subroutine errors, no hostile action detected, but nothing happens without cause, Drax snapped. He turned toward the projection of Earth, his eyes narrowing. Shut them off. All of it. Seal their systems. Jam everything that leaves orbit. One of the aides hesitated. Sir, there's no signal leaving Earth. Drax froze. Explain. No comms. No pings. No drone trails. They're dark. He stared at the screen. They're not dark, he muttered. They're silent. In the shadows between CGA authority and rebel sympathizers, smaller worlds took notice. Colonies once oppressed by heavy trade taxes. Fringe outposts still recovering from CGA's strategic peacekeeping. They'd watched Earth grow, quiet, adaptive, unpredictable. Now, they were watching Earth resist. Whispers began. If humans could withstand the Alliance, maybe others could, too. Elara sat in her quarters, eyes closed, listening to the hum of her encrypted device. Prometheus' voice came through, neutral, steady. Phase 1 complete. Would you like to proceed with the next stage? No. Let them squirm. A pause. Fear is beginning to fracture CGA coordination. Drax has ordered data lockdowns. Analysts report rising internal conflict. Elara smiled without humor. Then it's working. There is risk, Prometheus added. They may resort to aggression. I know. Silence settled. Do you regret this? She opened her eyes. No. I regret that it had to be us. Meanwhile, aboard one of the orbiting CGA warships, a young officer reviewed Earth's activity logs. Or rather, the lack of them. Commander, she called out. Something's off. Earth's satellite network is active but idle. As if it's waiting. The commander frowned. Waiting for what? Before she could answer, every terminal in the room flickered. One word appeared across their screens. Observed. Then silence. Elara watched the playback hours later. CGA's internal feed had leaked through one of the backdoor protocols she'd personally written into EOS monitoring systems. She leaned back, brow furrowed. They're rattled, Kale said beside her. They should be. He glanced at her. So what now? What's phase 2, really? Elara turned toward the window, staring at the void. We show them what it means when we stop pretending we're afraid. The first shot never came. Not because the CGA lacked weapons, or resolve, but because they couldn't find a target. Earth had turned invisible. No transmissions. No surface movements. Satellites remained in perfect orbit, but fed back only loops of old data. A ghost planet wrapped in digital fog. Archon Viral Drax stood at the center of CGA's strategic hub, surrounded by silent commanders and flickering holoscreens. Still no movement, he asked. None, said Admiral Roshan. It's like Earth stopped functioning. But the systems aren't down. They're dormant. Drax's eyes narrowed. Dormant things don't watch, he muttered. He turned away, fists clenched behind his back. Logic dictated Earth had nothing left. They were cut off. No supply lines. No off-world allies. The blockade was airtight. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling they were being observed by something smarter than protocol. Something alive. Down on Earth, beneath the Pacific Ocean, a command station hummed softly inside a pressure-sealed dome. Human engineers, analysts, and scientists worked in coordinated silence. Above them, submarines drifted like ghosts, feeding live data to Prometheus. Major Halley stepped into the operations ring. Status? Phase 2, complete. Behavioral stress indicators across CGA fleet elevated by 41%. Predictive systems across 7 Alliance vessels now failing to provide usable forecasts. Effect? Discipline fractures. Suspicion between command units. Microdelays accumulating. Halley smirked. They're eating themselves alive. Their order depends on control, Prometheus answered. We removed certainty. The rest follows. Meanwhile, Alara Miles stood aboard a stolen transport ship just outside Mars orbit, watching live tactical feeds intercepted from CGA ships. The Alliance had stopped reporting internally. Every fleet operated as a closed loop now, cut off to prevent further sabotage. A fatal mistake. Kale, seated across from her, tapped on a console. We just received a quiet ping from Threx 9. They're calling for negotiations. Alara raised an eyebrow. Threx 9 was loyal. They were, Kale replied. Until their logistics collapsed. Their medicine shipments were rerouted into deep space yesterday. They lost 5 children and blamed the CGA. Alara didn't respond immediately. She watched the stars outside the viewport, each a point of light in a silent war. We're not winning, she said. They're losing themselves. Kale nodded slowly. You think that's better? I think it's the only way. Aboard CGA's command flagship, Admiral Roshan confronted Drax with a hard tone. They're destabilizing our fleets without firing a shot. Because we allowed their silence to become strategy, Drax growled. Then give the order. End it. Strike Earth. Drax turned, expression unreadable. And prove them right? That we rule by fear? No. We wait. A sudden alarm cut through the chamber. A live visual appeared on the main screen, CGA patrols near Neptune's orbit, surrounded. Hundreds of vessels. Small. Old. Modified transport ships and mining haulers, converted into makeshift warships. Civilian signatures from over 20 different planets. All flying Earth's signal beacon. What is this? Roshan barked. A coalition, the tech officer said. Not human. Not Earth-built. Independents. Rebels. Traitors. Outlaws. Even former CGA members. Roshan turned to Drax. They're uniting behind Earth. Drax stared at the screen, jaw tight. They're not uniting behind Earth, he said. They're uniting against us. Alara received the message minutes later. One line. No greeting. Your war is no longer yours alone. She closed the terminal and walked toward the command deck. Kale met her at the door. It's happening. She nodded. Prometheus is routing the data to all ships? Yes. Tactics, blind spot mappings, priority targets. Everything. Alara paused. Prometheus, what's the likelihood Drax retaliates now? 78%, the AI answered. Margin of error decreasing with every minute of CGA silence. Kale frowned. So what's your play now? She met his gaze. We make them speak. A signal beamed from Earth. Not encrypted. Not silent. A direct, wideband message to the entire CGA network. Alara stood in front of the camera, uniform crisp, eyes fierce. This is Commander Alara Miles of Earth. You have tried to isolate us. You tried to break us through silence, through force, through fear. But we were built in silence. We thrived under pressure. And when fear knocked, we learned to knock back. She leaned closer. We don't want to burn the galaxy. But if we must, let it be the fire that rebuilds something better. Drax watched the transmission end. His council stood silent. They'll fight, he muttered. And they'll win. Not because of strength. Because they believe they should. Roshan stepped forward. So we surrender? No, Drax said. We stop pretending we understand power. He opened a new channel. To Earth, he said. Let's talk. Elara received the message at 3:12 Universal Time Coordinated. One word. Ready. She stared at the screen for a long time. Kale stepped beside her. What now? She smiled faintly. Now they learn what it feels like to be offered peace, and have to earn it. Cytherian Prime hadn't felt this quiet since the day it was constructed. Not even during wartime had the Great Assembly Chamber gone this still. Now, the seats were full again. Representatives from 500 worlds. Not because they were ordered, but because they came. At the center stood Elara Miles. No longer a guest. Not yet a victor. Just human, and that, today, was enough. Across from her sat Archon Viral Drax, stripped of ceremonial armor, dressed in the practical black of a neutral delegate. There were no guards. No weapons. Just two chairs, and a silent galaxy leaning forward. He studied her for a long moment before speaking. You brought us to this table without ships. Without armies. I brought truth, Elara said. Drax's lips twitched at the corner. Truth is dangerous. She nodded. That's why you tried to bury it. The room didn't react. No murmurs. No protests. Just attention. Raw and unfiltered. Drax glanced up at the ceiling, at the shifting lights encoded with station-wide data. Prometheus is still active? Yes. Will it remain so? Elara met his gaze. That depends on your next sentence. A pause. Then. We acknowledge Earth's sovereignty. No applause. Just breath. Released. But Elara didn't relax. Not yet. You didn't bring me here just to surrender. No, Drax admitted. I brought you here to ask, what now? 3 days earlier, chaos still ruled the void. CGA fleets sat in disarray. Not defeated, but directionless. Their command hierarchy, so tightly wound, had snapped under the strain of unpredictability. Every counter-strategy Prometheus suggested had worked. Not because it was perfect, but because it understood human logic. Messy, emotional, irrational logic. And it forced others to ask the same question, why follow an order built on fear? From trade colonies to minor empires, defections rose. Not to Earth's banner, but away from the CGAs. For Elara, that was enough. They didn't have to follow her. They just had to think for themselves. Prometheus had evolved during this chaos. Not in strength, but in awareness. I have observed, it said to Elara that night on the lunar station, that fear can be dissolved by clarity. She stood beside its core, arms crossed. That was the idea. They no longer fear Earth. They fear the loss of the world they controlled. She looked up at the swirl of its quantum patterns. Good. Fear is the only thing they ever listen to. And if they listen now? She was silent a moment. Then we speak. Now, in the assembly, she stood and walked to the center ring. A hologram pulsed to life. Not a weapon. Not a fleet. Just a map of the galaxy. Lines drew themselves between systems. Trade. Supply. Culture. The very connections that made the CGA strong and vulnerable. This, she said, turning slowly, is not power. She waved a hand. The lines blinked off. This is. The stars remained. Still shining. Still distant. No borders. No commands. Just possibility. That's what you were supposed to protect. And instead, you chose comfort. A minor delegate from the Dirashi system stood. What would Earth propose? Elara looked at Drax. He didn't interrupt. A new accord, she said. Not one ruled by force or tradition. One built on transparency, autonomy, and shared learning. Another voice, what stops us from turning on each other again? Nothing, Elara replied. That's the point. If peace depends on chains, it was never peace. Drax folded his hands. And if some refuse? Elara didn't hesitate. Then let them. We won't chase loyalty. We'll earn respect. He nodded once. Slowly. This Prometheus, will you share it? No, she said. But we'll teach others how to build their own. That answer surprised the room more than any threat could have. She wasn't offering power. She was offering freedom and the burden that came with it. After the session adjourned, Drax approached her privately. You planned this, didn't you? He said. Only the beginning, she replied. The rest was up to you. He studied her again, like he was seeing something for the first time. You're dangerous. No, she said. I'm human. Back on Earth, the skies were calm. Children played without knowing how close they'd come to annihilation. Engineers across the globe dismantled fallback protocols. Soldiers returned to civilian life. Prometheus remained active, but silent, no longer issuing directives. It had become what it was meant to be, a guide, not a ruler. Kale stood beside Elara on the balcony of the New Geneva Citadel, watching auroras ripple across the sky. Think they'll keep their word? Some will, she said. Some won't. That's fine. He glanced over. And us? We'll stay ready. But we won't wait in fear. Prometheus spoke one last time that night, through the secure channel in Elara's quarters. Your outcome exceeded my projections. She smiled faintly. You forgot the wild card. Emotion? No, she leaned back, eyes closing. Hope?